Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar from the AP program. You are tuned into Introducing AP Precalculus. Hello, I'm Edward from AP, and we're delighted to have you here with us. Tonight's webinar will be all about AP Precalculus. We're delighted to have you join us. AP Precalculus will be the 39th AP course to join the portfolio of AP courses available to students across the country and around the world. And the course will launch in the 23-24 school year, so starting next September or August. And the first AP exam will be in May of 2024. Tonight, we want to tell you all about the course and the exam. And to do that, I brought my colleague, Jason Van Billiard. Jason is the course lead for AP Precalculus, and he is been responsible for leading the work, helping to bring this course to life. Jason, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how the course goes from an idea to launch?
Absolutely, thank you. It's exciting to share this with you today. So glad we can spend this time to review the course and the process it took to get here. I've been involved with the AP program first as a high school AP Calculus teacher, and then as a faculty member in higher ed. I was an AP reader, and I've been part of the AP program for quite some time. So to be part of this launch with AP Precalculus is just really exciting for me. I've worked with experts from around the country, and they've told me we need this, we need that, and so we put together a framework that many of you have seen, and I'm glad to present to you again today. So overall, what we have was a group of faculty and high school teachers who work to actually bring this to reality, to write the framework, an advisory board that guided us along the way, experts from the field, and it's been reviewed by probably many of you on the call tonight, and a number of other of people around the country. So I work with a development committee at this point. It's 16 members, and they're just great people to work with. They're very thoughtful and careful with everything they do, and so this is a privilege and honor for me to present to you tonight.
Jason, we are so glad to have you. I think maybe let's jump right in. We want to share some details about AP Precalculus, and we'll do that throughout the evening. A recording will be available for those who weren't able to make it tonight, or if you have to step away, we'll email out a recording to everyone who is registered so that you have it. Now, the big headline here for everyone is that every student who is ready for high school pre-calculus is ready for AP Precalculus. And we're really excited about this ambitious goal here, and to help explain why we believe every student who's ready for high school pre-calculus is ready for AP Precalculus. We want to talk about a few things. First, we want to talk to you about the students the course was built for, the content of the course, the resources that are available to teachers and students who would take the course. We're going to talk to you about why we started this course in the first place, and also how to learn more. So let's jump right in with students. This course is made for all students who are interested in taking pre-calculus. Now, to tell that story, we need to start kind of from the beginning, when students begin their math pathway, their high school math pathway, some of which begin in grade 8 with Algebra 1. So when you think about a standard sequence of high school math, you typically go Algebra 1, then Geometry, then Algebra 2. And up until this point, the next level math course you had would have been the only college level course you would have been had access to through the AP program is AP Calculus AB. The idea here is that we put pre-calculus ahead of that as the step between Algebra 2 and AB. What you see here is that pathway. So if students start Algebra 1 in grade 8, they would insert or be ready for AP Precalculus in grade 11, just prior to taking Calculus AB or BC. Now, if students started Algebra 1 in grade 9, AP Precalculus serves as the college level course that they could take, where they could get college credit from AP as seniors, a place, so the jump doesn't have to be as great for them. So you can see it doesn't matter if students take Algebra 1 in grade 8 or if they start Algebra 1 in grade 9, there is a place for them to take AP Precalculus while they're in high school. Now, Jason, this is pretty exciting on our part because we don't typically launch AP courses that have this level of flexibility. What do you see here as the benefit for schools in being flexibly offering AP Precalculus?
Well, I think that we see, as we see with the framework and what colleges are saying about what students need for calculus and their offerings of pre-calculus at the college level, these students are doing advanced mathematics coursework. And so, any student who's doing that coursework, they should have the opportunity to earn AP credit at higher ed institutions for the work they're already doing. And so it just makes a lot of sense for us to think about any student who's prepared, they've been through the algebra and geometry, algebra 2 sequence, to, if they're ready for pre-calculus and they're doing that advanced coursework and successful at it, they should be earning the college credit. So I think it's great to give this opportunity to students who, students who began that path at 8th grade algebra 1 and we're on a pathway potentially to earn college credit with calculus, and the students who are in 9th grade who may not have had the opportunity before. This can really help them, prepare for their college mathematics.
And Jason, I heard you talk about students who are ready for the course. And we've heard a lot of educators and even some students say that they don't know if they would be ready. They'd be ready for a college level pre-calculus course. And I know I've heard you tell students and teachers that if you're taking pre-calculus, you're in a college level course already, all the more reason to take the AP version of it so that you have a chance at college credit. But some students have needed to be convinced that they would be ready for the course. And I know we've put together a list of the prerequisites that students would need to be ready for pre-calculus. And the cool thing here is that all the prerequisites come from the sequence of courses prior to pre-calculus. Can you say a little bit more about the prerequisites and why really any student at any level of a pre-calculus course, that all levels of pre-calculus are ready for AP pre-calculus? It's not just kind of an honors level flip to AP.
Yeah, I think so often students bring in this idea like that. I mean, AP is scary, right? It's the the big AP course. But as we looked at this course and looked at the mathematics needed to complete this course and what students need to be successful, the list was, it's a pretty solid list that comes from the algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2 sequence. So as you can see here, there's a number of topics, and they're I mean, we're referring to algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, but it's also that integrated math course sequence that has these same topics in it. And so you can see linear functions and some experience with quadratics, some of the trig, some of the systems of equations, that are in here, and other topics. Everyone can read the list, but this is a list, if you're teaching these courses, your students are getting this already. And so we looked at the course and we say, are students ready for this? What does it take to be ready for AP Precalculus? This is the list. And if students are showing, strength in these areas, even like they don't have to be amazing, the best at, quadratic functions, but they've shown a proficiency at these things, and they're willing and they're interested. They should have the opportunity to take this course.
Jason, in some cases, we describe the prerequisite skill as a proficiency, and in other cases, a familiarity. Can you say a little bit more about what we mean in the difference there?
Yeah, so I guess there's a list of 8 topics here that are listed as proficiency. And this is where we would expect them to be able to use these things, do these things as prerequisite for the course. In other words, we wouldn't try to reteach these things or we really want students to come in being able to work with certain things like factoring quadratics. We don't want to teach that again. So they need to know that coming in. Whereas familiarity with it is exactly as the word says. It's really would be helpful for students to have seen these things, so they're not like kind of hit by it for the first time. Piecewise defined functions, it's helpful for them to have seen that. Complex numbers, it's helpful for them to have seen that. Those are things that we would hope they'd be familiar with coming in, but in no way do they have to be experts in these things prior to coming into the pre-calculus course.
So the bottom 4 topics here that we've listed it with familiarity, these are topics for students they shouldn't be foreign to students, but they certainly don't need to be experts at it.
Absolutely. We're gonna build on their limited knowledge during this course. And we're gonna expand that during the course. And that's true for all the topics above as well. We're gonna deepen their knowledge of each of those topics. I'm not saying that's not gonna happen, but these are ones we know they're gonna come in. They may not have had as much exposure to them. So we'll kind of bolster these a little more than we would the other topics.
That makes sense. Hey, Jason, I'm looking at the Q&A here, and there's a question that came in from Stephanie, who asked if we could talk a little bit more about the pathways. And I'm so glad she asked that question, because our next slide is about the pathways. So let me share it here. We believe that AP Precalculus fits into all the common math pathways. What you see here is kind of a traditional schedule. The columns are the years the student would experience this level math. And so year one, whether you start in grade 8 or grade 9, would be algebra 1. And then the way that we think about this in terms of a standard math sequence would be a kind of across the top row, which is the chart we showed a little earlier: algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, AP Precalculus. It is year 4 for you. If you're a senior at that point, AP Precalculus would be your terminal core, the terminal math course for you in high school. If you were a junior because you started algebra 1 in grade 8, then you could go on to AB, Calc BC, or even statistics if you wanted to move in that route. But that's not the only pathway that you see in schools, right? It could very well be the case that not all schools do geometry immediately after algebra 1. Some schools do algebra 1, then algebra 2, then geometry. Some schools condense geometry and algebra 2. And so what we've tried to do is build out the pathway so that educators, school leaders, the folks who build master schedules, school counselors can see where AP Precalculus could fit, no matter what the pathway was at your school. I mentioned this also because Stephanie asked a question about integrated math. So if you are a school that participates in an integrated math program, your pathway would look something like this here. So IM1, IM2, IM3, and then pre-calculus, AP Precalculus in year 4. Whether that is your senior year or your junior year, depends on whether or not you make it to that year 5 of math in your high school sequence. Jason, I did that pretty quickly. I might go back one. Anything you want to add here about AP Precalculus and how it fits into the math pathways?
Yeah, so and this audience would know more than most how many different combinations are possible going down the path here. And part of our goal is to give students the opportunity. Let the students think about what they want in their path, as they head toward college, and give them options. And this course actually opens up more options for them, really, with the getting the college credit, while they're in high school with this course. But I do think that as we work with counselors and work with teachers, and as we think about what do I recommend to a student, providing students with opportunity, I think, is key. And so getting this on the books so students have this option in their future, I think, is very valuable.
Oh, that's terrific. Jason, I'm reading some of the questions that are coming in. Mm-hmm. One of the questions is about kind of why is it that we have here in one of the pathways, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and then AP Calc AB as an option. And I think we have it there. I'm going to try to answer that question. I think we have it there because previously that was really the only option if students wanted to jump right into a college level AP course after Algebra 2. We didn't have a pre-calc for them. In some cases, students may be able to take that big jump, but in most cases, or we would believe more commonly, students would need the middle step there of AP Precalculus. Is that right? Can you say a little bit more about the big jump between Algebra 2 and Calc AB and why we think the pre-calculus there would be helpful?
Yeah, what we tried to do in this chart is really represent some pathways students may take. And there's nothing stopping a student to go from Algebra 2 to Calc AB. There's some students who can do that jump, and maybe they want to they want to go there. They have to understand the commitment involved with that. But like we have this set up, the vast majority of students, this step with Algebra 1, strengthening their understandings that we have in this course before they go to calculus is really helpful and important for many. And so often we hear about this this rush to calculus that's part of high school mathematics, and some students do that rush and they are successful, but we want all students to be successful. So as we help students and counsel them down these different pathways, we do want to present every option, because for some students that's possible, but the vast majority, this more graduated approach to mathematics learning is really a better pathway.
Oh, terrific. All right, Jason, let's go ahead and push forward here and talk about this idea of levels and whether or not all students would be ready for AP Precalculus. Now, we believe Precalculus is Precalculus. So if a student is taking a Precalculus course, they're certainly ready for AP Precalculus. That's not typically how AP program courses work. In many cases, it's only the honors section that would flip to the AP section here, but that's not how we're approaching Precalculus, because it is already a college level course that's being offered. So here we have kind of in this chart, we're trying to convey the idea that if you're offering Precalculus in grade 11, it is far likely that it is an honors level course. Those are your students who took algebra, started algebra 1 in grade 8. And if they are taking Precalculus in grade 11, they were kind of in an advanced math pathway from middle school. And likely you have an honor section. So we would very much encourage you to convert your standard Precalculus course, likely the honor sections in grade 11, to the AP Precalculus course, preparing kids for grade 12, where they would take AB or BC. Now, for students who started Algebra 1 in grade 9, it means that they would be taking Precalculus, or they would finish their sequence in grade 11 and have a spot open in a math pathway for Precalculus in grade 12. And this is where we would see variation in level in schools. You would see some Precalculus courses be labeled as the honors courses and some Precalculus courses as the regular section courses. And our advice here is that all levels should have the opportunity to earn the college credit that comes with taking a Precalculus course. Precalculus is college level course. And so all the more reason for every student to have that opportunity. If you only made the honors version of your Precalculus course AP, then you would be withholding the opportunity for college credit from the students who weren't in it, even though they were doing the same college work. Did I get that right, Jason?
Yeah, I think that's a good description. The seniors who are going to be in this course, I mean, I'm not sure, different states, of course, some states require 3 years of math, some require 4 years of math. But this opportunity to, take a course like this, to, in your 12th grade year, take an AP course, we really hope that some students will take that course, move forward, and maybe even consider a career in STEM that they didn't before. So often those students, especially in those states that are 3-year math states, they finish their 3rd math course in 11th grade, they take a year off, then they go to college, and they're getting, they really struggle when they go to college a lot. And the idea of, let me continue my math career, let me go in my senior year, let me do this AP course and maybe earn college credit for my work, or at least stay fresh in the mathematics, if nothing else, before I go to college. It really can make a big difference in the lives of those students.
Mm-hmm. So we do. So we absolutely do hope that schools consider replacing a Precalculus course. If they are going to adopt AP Precalculus, that they adopt it across all their sections of Precalculus, not simply just their honors section. Precalculus, in our view, is Precalculus, which brings us, Jason, to our next topic, which is all about the content of this course. And we think the content for Precalculus, whether it's in high school, whether it's in college, or the AP course, is all similar. So similar content. Precalculus is Precalculus, whether it's in high school, whether it's our version, or whether it's college. Now, there are just some standard topics that are taught across all courses. Can you walk us through what that's like and kind of what the story of this course is about?
Yeah, absolutely. If I can just advertise, we have another webinar on, is it December 5th, Edward, I believe is the
Oh, it
date?
is. Yes.
Yep. Okay. And we're going to go deep into the content on that. So I'll try not to geek out too much right now, but the pre-calculus, sequence here, you can see in our topics that we have in here, it goes from what we might consider the familiar to the less familiar. And so we start with things that are familiar. They've seen some polynomials in previous courses, but we want to start building a deep understanding of a couple key concepts. They've seen rate of change. We want to revisit rate of change, but they're going deeper than that. We're going to look at rate of change. For those of you who teach calculus, you understand we're talking about concavity. We're kind of setting them up for the second derivative. We want to start to build these concepts that will carry them into calculus. So we start there with that familiar polynomial functions and start to build these ideas. One key idea that we're going to focus on in the December 5th meeting is this idea of quantities varying with respect to each other. So as one quantity increases or decreases, what happens to the other quantity, and how do those things relate to each other? There's such a deep body of research out there that students developing a deep understanding of covariational reasoning, or how quantities vary with respect to each other across these different function types, prepare them really well for calculus. Go and read the research by Marilyn Carlson and her team out of ASU. These are important things that help students with calculus. So themed through all of this are these ideas of understanding how quantities vary with respect to each other. And we start with polynomial functions, something familiar to them, to help them start to build that understanding. We move toward the less familiar rational functions, and then we move into exponential functions. So there, they probably have seen them some. That's something that's listed as those, they've seen some exponential functions before, but we really want them to understand the difference between, for instance, a linear function and an exponential function. As the independent variable increases in each of those, the dependent variable increases or decreases in a different way, but based on linear, based upon quadratic, based upon exponential, and we develop that deep understanding. Meanwhile, as we study functions, we have to think about those general function ideas, such as transformations, which we introduce in Unit 1, polynomial and rational functions. As we think about transformations of functions, that's carried throughout the course. And of course, once you get down to trig functions, you can see with amplitude, period, and all these, and phase shift and vertical shift, you can see those transformations really, manifest themselves in the sinusoidal functions. So we work down through, we have these general function ideas that we think about throughout the course, and we have put then inverses and composition of functions between exponential and log, because it's our opportunity to play that inverse idea off of each other with exponential and logarithmic functions. This allows us to kind of tie that unit 2 together as you work your way through. So now we're getting to the less familiar. Students struggle with logarithmic functions. We know that. And to really get that tie together to the exponentials and understand what's happening in exponentials as one variable increases, what happens to the other variable, where the logarithmic is the exact inverse relationship that we see with exponential. We then move into trigonometric functions, which students have often seen the basic trig rules, the definitions of sine, cosine, and tangent earlier, but they haven't really internalized, this idea of a function, a function where you have quantities varying with respect to each other. You have an angle working with another value. And so you have this relationship working together. Once you get the trig functions, the periodicity, you have so much more to study. It's a richer understanding. And then finally, polar functions allows us to take those ideas of trigonometry. We move students into a new world in some sense, where the vertical line test isn't working anymore. And what's happening? Are these functions anymore? To really help them solidify this function concept with this final topic. And just like we start at the very beginning with, as X changes, how does Y change? Now we have, as theta changes, how does R change? And they have to wrestle with this idea of quantities varying with respect to each other in yet another context. So it really provides a solid foundation for concepts that are needed to be successful in calculus.
Hey, Jason, we got a bunch of questions about the content itself. So we'll delay answering those until the December 5 webinar. And we promise to send in our follow-up email, we will send a link on how to register so everyone will be able to get there and watch and tune in. And also, we're going to do our very best to respond to questions. If we aren't answering them live here, we will do our best to follow up with anyone who's asked a question and get back to you in the next few days. All right, so Jason, the pre-calculus is pre-calculus, right? So what is taught in high school pre-calculus is taught in college pre-calculus, and we're going to teach it in our AP Precalculus course. There are though, which we have here, a notation about some of the topics that vary across high school pre-calculus courses and college pre-calculus courses. Can you just say a word or two on how we're treating those differences?
Yeah, so you can see it, you know, kind of below this line here. There's the canon of pre-calculus that everyone teaches, and then different states, for instance, have different expectations on these other function topics, such as parametric functions, things involving vectors and matrices. And what we do is, you know, we know that those are needs of some high schools. We know that some colleges involve those other function types, but we do treat them and continue the story of function with those other topics. So for those of you who are in states that require those additional topics, any of those additional topics, or if you decide to teach those additional topics, it continues that story of function and quantities varying with respect to each other and really developing a deeper understanding of functions. So, you know, you're invited, or depending on where you live, you will be using topics from Unit 4. We provided those, and we will, just like we have for all the other topics, our teacher resources include the AP daily videos. It includes the topic questions and all those things that you find on AP Classroom. We continue those into Unit 4, so teachers have those available.
So Jason, can you tell us then a little bit more about the course? You're saying some of the topics, the first three topics, the first 3 units, there's a Unit 4, and it's kind of local discretion. Can you tell us a little bit more? What do you mean there?
Yeah, so we have, this has been closely reviewed by colleges and universities, you know, nationwide, and they've you know, given us a lot of feedback on the framework. And you know, they reviewed this, and it boils down to this: the Unit 1 to 3 topics are the ones that contain the topics necessary for placement into calculus. And so our assessment, our end of course assessment, will have those on, because colleges need that information to make decisions about credit and placement for students in calculus. So your AP exam will cover Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. And that will have all the formative assessments, but our summative assessment will be limited to those Unit 1 through 3 topics. Unit 4 remains in the course. You know, as I said, some states' high school math standards have those topics, but they're typically not necessarily topics needed for Calculus 1. And that's what you know, the colleges and universities have helped us to think through what's most important for them to be able to make decisions versus what are additional topics that are at the discretion of the teacher, the school, the state, whatever that may be. And so we have included these, and all the formative assessments are available for Unit 4, but these topics will not be part of the AP Precalculus exam in May of 2024.
And so, Jason, to clarify for anybody who's new to AP or pre-calculus teachers who are thinking about taking on AP Precalculus who've not taught an AP course before, you've talked a little bit about formative questions and summative questions. And so just as kind of a note there, when you're talking about formative questions, you're saying all of the practice resources that are available in AP Classroom that teachers can use throughout the year to assess learning, ongoing learning for students from the start of the school year through the exam, those.
I think I lost Edward for just a minute.
No, I'm right here.
You're back. Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So we're talking about formative assessments. Those are the ones that are in AP Classroom that teachers can use throughout the year to assess ongoing learning. But when you say summative exam, you mean the AP exam, the one that everybody knows about, that happens kind of those sometime in the first 2 weeks of May, the big end of year exam. And so what's happening here is just Units 1 through 3 are assessed on the AP exam in May. But we know that some teachers will want to teach Unit 4 throughout the year, and that's cool. And we have formative assessments for them, those like assessments they can use to assess ongoing learning in AP Classroom from the start of school to the end of the year. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And those formative assessments give the teachers information about how your class is doing, how individual students are doing with respect to the topics, but also with respect to the practices that are weaved throughout the course.
Yep. I was trying to push us forward. It isn't just topics that are on an exam. It is also skills, right? So we have these units. You were showing us the topics in those units. Tell us more about the skills, because we don't just teach. An AP exam isn't just about learning content. It's also skills. You do something with the content you learn. Tell us how we've organized the course here and the skills of the course.
Yeah. So you see here we have three practice categories, and inside of there are 8 skills. And the words in bold help you kind of get the feel for what that skill is. So in our first practice, which is much more that procedural symbolic fluency, we can never neglect that in a pre-calculus course. It's a skill of learning how to solve equations and inequalities, and then also expressing equivalent forms. So this is rewriting, mathematical expressions. And then finally, skill 1C is constructing new functions, doing that analytic manipulation of putting a function together that may model a situation, that may relate to a certain context, or just a pure mathematical, manipulation of some kind of mathematical expression or function. And so this first column really focuses on all of that symbolic manipulation that we do want students to be competent in. And one thing we should see is there's a relation between the skills and the topics. So you saw the topics from units 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what you can do is we think about this, we take each of those topics and we say, those topics can be assessed or be understood through each of these lenses. You can think about the topic, for instance, polynomials. You can solve equations. You can rewrite them. You can construct polynomial functions. So the skills actually apply to every topic. And so these are things that are done throughout the course. Each of these is just woven throughout, as this background thing that students are learning and getting better and better at throughout the entire course. Practice 2, for those of you familiar with AP Calculus or have read plenty of what we've seen out there about the rule of 4 and multiple representations. Now, this is the practice all about taking graphical, numerical, analytical, verbal representations and going back and forth. We understand the depth of knowledge students can build by seeing it written analytically, seeing a graph and how that relates to the analytically written function, verbally describing what's happening with that function, or even looking at a table of values and seeing like, oh, from this table of values, I can see that as X increases, Y is increasing exponentially, or it's increasing quadratically. You can see those things happening in those different representations. And then practice 3, we've been trying to do this for a long time as teachers, right? We want students to practice communicating mathematics. So skill 3A is all about describing characteristics of these functions. Where is it increasing? Where is it decreasing? Where is a max? Just talking about the functions and based upon the tools we have available, and with different limited tools or more expansive tools that you may have available to describe functions. We want them to not just, skill 3B, not just take results, but apply them back into a context. That context might be a purely mathematical context, that's understood, but we have real world problems that we take and we solve. And when you're done, it's not just a number. What am I doing with that thing? Or I might just have a function. What is that function describing? Have we defined the variables well in the context? Are there limitations on the domain or range of this function based upon the context? Those are all applying results in a context. And then finally, this skill 3C, which is so important in our study of mathematics, is supporting our conclusions. It's saying, how do you know that's true? How are you supporting, your statements? And so these all weave together. They're taken through the course. Our exams, for instance, every single exam item, every single multiple choice question has a topic and skill pairing. It's this topic, but we're measuring this skill. And so you can imagine how each of these skills can be applied to all the different topics.
Yeah. So Jason, content, the units, there are 4 units of the course. 3 of them are assessed on the exam, the first 3. And then there are these 3 skill categories called mathematical practices with 8 skills embedded across them. Tell us, how does this all come together when we talk about the exam at the end of the year, the big AP exam? Because it is a real AP exam. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, it's going to be great for students to think, learn the content deeply, learn it well. Throughout the framework, we've given recommended top skills to focus on which each of the topics. So students are practicing those skills before they get to this, what you see in front of you, the big end of year exam. But this end of year exam is designed with 2 parts. There is section 1, which is multiple choice questions, and section 2, which is student generated free response questions. So in the multiple choice section, there are 2 parts. Part A is a section where graphing calculator is not permitted. This is where we have opportunities to test their ability to do that symbolic manipulation, because if students has a calculator in hand that has a CAS, a computer algebra system on it, and they can type the thing in and does the work for them, that's great. And we do want them to use that for practical reasons. But in this portion, we got to make sure they have those essential skills down. It also allows us to ask questions that really get into some deeper understandings, where they have to wrestle with an idea inside this graphing calculator not permitted section. Second, there is a section that does require the use of a graphing calculator. And in this section, they will be using the graphing calculator to do some different things. This is not just calculation. I mean, there are times they're going to do calculations and use a calculator for that, but we want them to start using the calculator as a tool to do certain things as they prepare for other mathematics courses. The second part of the exam are 4 free response questions. 2 of those free response questions do require, portions of them require the use of a graphing calculator. There's 6 points in each of the 4 free response questions. And those free response questions are laid out. Students answer them. Sometimes they use a calculator to answer portions of them. Sometimes they have to interpret their result, that they get from the calculator. But that's the first 2 questions. And the last 2, a calculator is not permitted. So you can imagine one of our questions in here is where they're actually doing that show your work, that sort of build an argument as they work through this. So overall, those questions, those free response questions, are scored by college professors and what will be first-year experienced AP Precalculus readers in June of 2024. So more to come. Stay tuned. If you want to be an AP Precalculus reader, I really hope that you get more involved in this and help us with scoring many exams.
So, Jason, while you were explaining this exam, a number of people wrote in and asked, when will one be available for them to see what it looks like? They're all very curious. Okay, excited about the course. Let's see the exam. What can we share with them? When can we share? When will that be available?
Yes, so I'll give it in 2 parts. First, we have the CED, the course and exam description, which comes out in the spring. And in the spring, the course and exam description will have the framework as you've seen it. And we'll also have some instructional pieces, but also have sample questions. So you can see what those questions look like. It'll be a sample of multiple choice questions, and it will be a very clear representative sample of the representative sample of the 4 free response questions will be in there. Those of you who are good at arithmetic will have noticed that on this slide it says there's 48 multiple choice questions, and that 28 plus 12 is not 48. The numbers on the right are correct. The 48 is a typo. It should say 40, and I apologize for that. Don't want to create confusion, but there are 40 questions, 28 in the graphing calculator not permitted, and 12 in the graphing calculator permitted. But that's the CED. The CED will have, of course, exam description. CED will have the sample questions. And then in the summer of 2023, we'll have a full practice exam available that students can work through, for teachers who are teaching AP Precalculus, they can work through all the questions.
Another question came up about while we're here. Will there be a chief reader report, much like there are chief reader reports for all the other courses? My sense is yes, but I actually haven't heard us talk about that. Comes after the launch of a course and after the first scoring of an AP exam. But can we confirm that now, or do we need to follow up?
Yeah, there's no problem with confirming that now. So after the exam, we have, everyone's aware of the instructional planning report, the IPR that teachers get for their classroom. And so we have IPR categories that span the different function types, that span the different representations. There's lots of data you will get to know how your students did category by category on the exam. And then of course, just like we do with every other course, you'll hear what students struggled on, where they can work, where you as a teacher can help your students be more successful the following year based upon the results of the AP reading in 2024.
All right. So before we move on, just one final note here, just as the reminder, the AP exam is assessing units 1 to 3. There are 4 units in the course, and we provide all of the instructional materials for the 4 units, but the exam only assesses units 1 to 3 because those are the topics that colleges require for placement into college calculus. So just as a quick reminder there, unit 4 is not assessed on the AP exam.
Edward, there's a question in the chat, if I can just respond to it quickly. Please. Someone asked about, we know to become an AP reader in so many other courses, you have to have so many years experience as an AP, whatever the subject is, teacher. Well, we know that's not mathematically possible for this. You can't have 3 years experience by 2024. So we will have posted details on qualifications needed to be an AP reader, and it obviously, for logical reasons, can't include that 3 years or whatever of experience in teaching AP Precalculus. That's a great question.
Right. All right. We've gotten also a lot of questions about textbooks and what the recommendation is here. The headline here is no need to switch the textbook. Can you say a little bit about that? Why use their existing textbook? So pre-calculus, we say pre-calculus, what you're already doing should be fine. No need to switch your existing textbook. Tell us more about that, Jason.
Yeah, so we've done a broad survey of textbooks that are available. It's all part of the research we did in building the course. And the textbook that you have in your classroom should be fine to begin the course. It may not be organized in the exact same way as the framework. And so you might have to think about, how am I going to organize my course? How am I going to work through it the first year? There are AP editions on the way. I would definitely discourage people from buying a brand new, pre-calculus book this year and then buying another brand new pre-calculus book the following year when the AP edition comes out. But we've seen and we've checked all these topics that are in the assessed content, those unit 1 through 3 content. They're in pre-calculus books. Also, if you find that your book may not do it as richly as you would like, there's also free open textbooks out there that have this stuff in it that you can supplement if you need to. So I don't think you should hesitate in adopting the course because you're afraid you're not going to have a textbook for it. If you have a pre-calculus textbook, you should be good to go.
And then just as a quick note for district administrators or school leaders or those who are responsible for purchasing or adopting textbooks, we would even recommend waiting. We are working with publishers, is that right? And like the AP versions of pre-calculus books will likely not be ready for the 23-24 school year. So all the more reason to wait to see what the big publishers do and what they get out. But we have shared the framework with them and they know it's coming and they're working on their versions of it.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So we talk about textbooks. Also, questions are about technology, calculators, what's allowed. Can you tell us a little bit more about the technology that can be used with this course?
Yeah, so I want to distinguish between the technology that can be used on the exam and the technology that can be used in the course overall. So for instance, in your classroom, use all those technologies to help explore ideas. Use Desmos, get the sliders going so students can see how things are operating, how different quantities affect the function, the graph of the function, the table of the function. All those things are available. All the applets that are out there, go ahead and use them. Those are really helpful. On the exam itself, we do have a post-it list of approved calculators, and it's a pretty long list. I don't want to bias anybody because I have my favorite calculators, and everyone has their favorite calculators. But the list is out there. The key here is that students should be doing these things, practice these things with their calculator as they go through the course. On the exam itself, they will be finding zeros of functions, finding points of intersection, mins and maxes, and solving equations, and doing some of these other pieces that are in those unit 1 through 3 topics. So I know that sometimes teachers wait until the night before the exam to get out the calculator and suddenly teach the kids how to use the calculator. It's the point isn't to be like, okay, now we're going to get this crutch all of a sudden that you can use on the exam. It really is to use the technology carefully, use it to help kids understand things more deeply, and have them practice using it, at different points throughout the year, so that when they get to the exam, they're not looking for the on button, when they get there.
So Jason, that takes us to kind of a conversation here about resources. We've been trying to make the case that AP Precalculus, it could be a very good option for students in your school. And we want to make that case even stronger when we talk about the additional resources the student would take the AP version of Precalculus rather than just a standard Precalculus version that isn't associated with the AP program. And so let's kind of build that out here as we do a side-by-side comparison, where when you are in AP Precalculus, you're likely getting more time, more incentives, and more supports for taking the course as an AP course. So in high school, college, or in AP, all of the functions are almost identical. All of the topics, they're basically the same. There are some variation, but you can manage that with using Unit 4, not using Unit 4. But the content itself is largely the same across all of whether high school, whether college, or whether in the AP course. What varies here are kind of the experience that students would have. So in terms of hours of instruction, taking Precalculus in high school gives you far more hours than taking it if you were in college, just in the way that the frequency with which students meet and the way schedules are made in high school versus college. Also, class size can vary tremendously between a high school version of a course and a college version of a course. College Precalculus likely taught in a large lecture hall. Teaching AP Precalculus, you're going to be in a small classroom with peers, and that learning environment will look very different in that small classroom versus a large lecture hall. But there are even more. There's even more benefits to taking the AP version, and it's what comes with the AP brand. So often you get GPS bonus points. High schools, school districts, states often reward extra weight to students' GPAs when they take an AP level course. There's the college credit opportunity for having a chance to earn college credit while you take this course. There are AP daily videos. Just like for our other courses, we will record an AP daily video for every topic that works with every skill of the course for all the units 1 to 3, which are assessed, and Unit 4. We have free online practice through AP Classroom, and of course, AP teacher workshops, and with our first AP Summer Institute for Precalculus, which will launch this coming summer in advance of the year before. So from our vantage point, it feels like a big win here. It's the same content, it's more hours, smaller class size, better GPA bonus points, college credit, and then the ton of resources that come for students or for teachers. So from our view, kind of all the more reason to take the AP version to get that extra stuff. There are unit guides, though, here to support teachers. We want to be very clear. We try to be as transparent as possible on what the expectations are in an AP course and on an AP exam. Jason, you described having been part of the AP program for many years. I remember as a former AP US history teacher, when they simply gave us the topic outline, and it was like, teach the Revolutionary War. That was it. We've moved a long way. We've moved a long way from that, and AP Precalculus is certainly part of that new history for our program, where we are very concrete about the expectations of the course, and we do that through the unit guides here that are available for all teachers. It shows the function types, the concepts, and everything a teacher would need to know to kind of deliver the content and the skills of the course. More than that, we also have free learning resources in AP Classroom. And if anyone is not familiar with, has not taught AP before, let me just pause here for a moment, explain what this is. We give you access to this online portal. We call it AP Classroom. You log in with your College Board credentials, and you get access to questions for every topic in every unit of the course. So if you're teaching a topic and there's a learning objective, we give you the learning objective for the topic, we give you the skills related to the topic, and then at the end of the day, we give you questions that you can use to assess your students. You can use those questions as exit tickets. If you want to do it with your kids, you can use as the night's homework. You could use it as homework the night before to preview what's to come. We try to really set you up so that you can assess learning throughout the school year with these formative assessments that are tied directly. The question is directly about the content you just taught and the skill that you paired it with. So you're really assessing what happened that day in that moment of the school year. So we think those are super cool. Now, those are topic questions, which basically you would give at each day of the school year, maybe every other day of the school year, depending on how long the lesson, the instructional periods you need to do that lesson or that topic. But we also have these progress checks, and these progress checks happen at the end of a unit where we assess all of the learning for that particular unit. This is kind of a bigger moment for you to assess all of the topics in the unit, all the skills that the kids learned throughout the unit along the way. And it's these moments, these are those formative assessment items that Jason was talking about earlier, that really help you diagnose what students know or where they may need additional support. One of the key features that we added in March of 2020 during the pandemic was bringing learning directly to students. And we do that through AP Daily Videos. We have veteran, experienced AP teachers or university professors come and teach all of the content that is required for the course. So every topic will have an AP Daily video, and it will be an opportunity for students to watch and get additional support if they need more time with direct instruction. And Jason, those videos are about 10 or so minutes in length. I know the calculus videos are longer videos. Sometimes they're like 14 and 16 minutes, but I think we try to keep them between 8 and 10 minutes. Is that right for pre-calculus, or are we gonna move it a little longer? These videos a little longer?
We've kept most of them shorter. Yeah, up to this point. We'll see how it goes through the rest of the course. This is a work in progress because we're getting ready to launch in the fall. But the teachers have been involved, professors from different universities, and they've been doing a good job, keeping it short and sweet.
Great. And those videos are accessible through AP Classroom, this like learning portal that AP teachers have access to. I should have said students have access to it as well. You assign the topic questions, the progress checks through the platform. It can auto grade for you. It's pretty cool. It gives you a dashboard and you can see the results. The kids can see their results. The kids can access the daily videos and watch directly from the portal. It'll even tell you whether or not the kids have watched the videos or not, and how much of the video they watched. So we think that's pretty cool, and you can access it at myap.collegeboard.org. No, those aren't the only supports we have for teachers. We also have professional learning that is available just like in our other courses, we have professional learning available. Our big professional learning moment is during the summer. It's the AP Summer Institutes. These are 4-day long moments in the summer where teachers meet in person. We do have virtual options now, but they're moments where teachers can come together and do deep dives of the course and exam description and kind of get everything they need to know ahead of the school year. But not everybody can give up 4 days in the summer. So we have 1-day workshops as well, where it's a condensed version of learning all about the course and exam. Those will be available. I believe that we will make those dates available in spring of 2023 as we move into the summer months, so that you'll know what's available, where you can go, and how to sign up and register. So those are the resources. We've talked about the students, we've talked about the content, we've talked about the resources. We're now going to talk about, okay, why have you even done pre-calculus to start with? What's the big fuss about pre-calculus, and why have you decided to make this your 39th AP course? Jason, I'm going to ask you, as the math expert here, pre-calculus matters. Tell us why AP pre-calculus matters. What did we see in the research that convinced us that this was the course to build?
Yeah, there is such a barrier that students run into when they first start college. I'm not sure how many have experienced this, or your children have experienced this, where they go to college and they're in this churn of getting through the math requirements so they can start the rest of their courses. And so often this mathematics is a barrier to students moving forward in their college career. And we see people both outside of STEM overall, where math is getting in the way, and also people in STEM that just give up because they can't get those prerequisite pieces done. And this motivation to stay and do a good, strong course their senior year, potentially, to continue that path forward, and get college credit potentially as they move forward. We really want to help. We can't, there's nothing that's going to fix the entire system. I don't want to oversell what we have here, but it's another opportunity to help fix this issue. And something else we've seen, and it's an older piece of research, but we do understand that when we look at the long-term impact on graduation rates, as it relates to mathematics courses, and Edward, you can show the next slide. It's really Algebra 1, trig, calculus. Pre-calculus is the big winner. Students who go through and are successful in pre-calculus are so much more likely to complete their bachelor's degree. Somehow they get over this math hump, this math requirement that stands in the way of so many students being successful. So, we could have done a lot of different things, but this one feels like it has the greatest potential to have an impact on those barriers to success in college.
And Jason, more than just those barriers, students also get the standard benefits of AP, which is earning college credit, standing out in the admissions process, and potentially fulfilling a college math requirement so students can focus on the courses. For students who are not excited about math or going into STEM, it can fulfill a college math requirement so students can focus on the courses that are more central to their major. So all of those benefits are also in place for the course as well. This is kind of our note here, the note we wanted to share with school leaders, kind of for many seniors and those kind of responsible for programming. For many seniors, taking AP Precalculus may be their only opportunity to experience AP before graduating high school, specifically in kind of a math pathway. And so we would strongly encourage, and we hope that schools will see the value adopting AP Precalculus and what it could mean for the youngsters, for kids who want to take a college level course at the end of their math sequence. Hey, Jason, we've had some questions in the chat. We're running close on time. We've had some questions in the chat on how do I get more information? So I'm just going to put this slide up here. This will work for anyone tuning in. Feel free to take a screenshot now or use your camera. This will take you directly to these resources. AP Central, this will take you to the page on AP Central where you can learn all about AP Precalculus. If you are looking for our course framework to know what exactly are the expectations of the course, you can download the course framework. Know that the course and exam description, which is a much more robust document, will be available in spring. There's a brochure here if you want to share it with anyone in your school. And if you would like to make sure that you are getting the latest and greatest of all of the updates about AP Precalculus, please go ahead and fill out our interest form. We'll make sure you're on our mailing list and you get all of the updates as they go out. And everyone on the interest form will get an email about, as well as the follow-up email from this, about registering for the December 5 webinar and all about the content. And if you'd like to learn more, you can download the presentation. This presentation is all about AP Precalculus, and it introduces the course for you. Well, Jason, I really appreciate your time. We're right on time here. I really appreciate you hanging out with me and talking about AP Precalculus. I know you're as excited as all of us to launch, and maybe even more, to get this course launched and into schools. We will be around later in December. We'll launch some videos on YouTube, and we will be around throughout the spring as schools really start making efforts to bring this course live. Please do feel free to reach out. Those of you who submitted questions and we have not answered them live, our team is going to do our very best to respond and get back to you. And a follow-up email should be on the way in the next couple of days. All right, Jason, any final words before we say goodbye?
No, just thank you so much for joining today, and look forward to eventually meeting many of you in your classrooms and in person around the country.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Have a great night.